The moment you realize you deserve more, you become his biggest fear. You feel that? That tightness in your chest? That sinking feeling in your stomach? That's the weight of the truth pressing down on you. The truth you've been running from. The truth you've been burying under excuses, false hope, and late-night prayers for a man who was never yours to begin with. How much longer are you going to lie to yourself? How much longer are you going to wait for a man to become something he never was and never will be? If you're still here, still hoping, still checking your phone for his name to pop up, this is for you. If you're still convincing yourself that maybe, just maybe, he'll wake up one day and see your worth, listen to me. He already sees it. That's why he's keeping you in this cycle. That's why he gives you just enough to keep you hooked, but never enough to make you feel safe. He's not confused. He's not emotionally unavailable. He's not just scared of love. He knows exactly what he's doing. He knows you love him. He knows you'll stay. And that's why he treats you like an option. Before we go any further, hit that like button, not for me, but for yourself. Let this be the first step in choosing you today. And if you're truly ready to break this cycle, write "I choose me" in the comments. Not just as words, but as a declaration to yourself, to the universe, and to him. Welcome back to the channel, my queens. You already know why you're here. Somewhere deep inside, you know you deserve better. But knowing isn't enough, is it? Because you're still waiting. Waiting for him to change. Waiting for him to text back. Waiting for that perfect moment when he finally gives you what you've been begging for. But let me ask you something. How many nights have you cried yourself to sleep over a man who sleeps just fine? How many times have you lowered your standards, swallowed your pain, and silenced your needs just to keep him comfortable? You are shrinking yourself into a version so small, so unrecognizable, just so he won't leave. And for what? I once worked with a woman. I'll call her Lisa. Lisa spent 6 years loving a man who kept her on a leash. He never committed, never prioritized her, never made her feel secure. But every time he pulled away, she ran after him. She read articles about how to make him miss you, bought new outfits, changed her hair, became the kind of woman he might actually want. And the more she tried, the less he respected her. You know why? Because men don't respect desperation. They don't value what they know they can have anytime, anywhere. The day Lisa walked away, he panicked. He started texting non-stop, showing up unannounced, making promises he should have made years ago. But by then, she was done. She realized the only thing keeping her stuck was her belief that he was ever going to be different. And you? You need to see that too. Because love is not supposed to feel like this. Love is not a game where you have to prove your worth, where you have to beg for consistency, where you have to break yourself just to be enough. Who taught you that suffering was a requirement for love? Society? Fairy tales? That one toxic aunt who told you, men will be men, just be patient. Let me tell you something. Patience won't change a man who benefits from your silence. And I know, it's hard. It's hard to let go of the dream you had, the future you imagined, the man you thought he was. But the pain you're feeling right now, that's not love. That's addiction. And addiction will have you chasing something that's already destroying you. Every time you check his social media, every time you break your own boundaries, every time you tell yourself, maybe this time will be different, you are handing over your power. And he knows it. But here's the part he will never admit. The moment you stop chasing, the moment you go silent, the moment you stop giving a damn, his ego crumbles. Because without your love, without your energy, Without your pain feeding him, he is nothing. He thrives on your forgiveness. He survives on your hope. Take that away and watch what happens. Say this with me: I choose myself. Write it. Own it. Let him feel the silence you leave behind. Because in the next section, I'm going to tell you exactly why your absence will haunt him for the rest of his life, and why your comeback will be the thing he never recovers from. Stay with me, because this is just the beginning. Your rise is coming. Number 1, the one thing that kills his ego instantly. So, my dear, let's get one thing straight. You have been lied to your entire life about love. Society sold you a fantasy wrapped in suffering. They told you that love is patience, love is forgiveness, love is endurance. That if you just give more, love harder, sacrifice enough, you will be rewarded. But tell me, has that ever worked for you? Has your patience turned him into a better man? Has your endurance made him more loyal? Has your suffering earned you happiness? No, and it never will, because real love doesn't require pain to prove itself. But that's not what they taught you, is it? They filled your head with lies, poisoned your heart with false hope, made you believe that being a good woman means being a silent woman. They convinced you that the more you endure, the more valuable you become. But listen to me right now. You were not born to be a martyr for a man's comfort. The truth is, the moment you stop giving a damn, the moment you stop reacting, the moment you stop waiting, you take back everything he stole from you. You want to see a man lose his mind? Stop chasing him. You want to see his ego crumble? Go silent. You want to make him feel the weight of everything he took for granted? Disappear. His ego is like a balloon. You have been inflating it with your love, your forgiveness, your energy. Every time you cried over him, every time you answered his late-night texts, every time you let him come back without consequences, you blew more air into that balloon. He got bigger, bolder, more confident in his power over you. But the moment you walk away, the moment you cut off the supply, the moment you detach, the air rushes out and he deflates. Because here's the truth: he doesn't love you. He loves the way you feed his pride. Let me tell you a story. A woman I once helped, we'll call her Emily, spent 3 years in an on-and-off situationship with a man who kept her on a leash. He never committed, but he never let her go. Every time she tried to move on, he'd show up again with sweet words, fake promises, just enough affection to pull her back into the cycle. And every time, she fell for it. Until one day, she didn't. One day, instead of answering his text, she blocked his number. Instead of waiting for closure, she created her own. Instead of checking his social media, she focused on her own life. At first, he didn't even notice. He thought she was playing hard to get. But as the days turned into weeks, the silence got louder. His confidence started to crack. He reached out through mutual friends. He showed up at places he knew she'd be. He panicked, because for the first time, she was not there to feed his ego. And that's the moment he felt what you've been feeling this entire time: emptiness. See, men don't realize what they have when they know you'll always be there. They only feel the loss when it's too late to fix it. But let's be clear, this is not about him. This is about you. Because I know what you're thinking. But it hurts. But I love him. But what if he actually changes? I need you to hear me. Yes, it hurts. Walking away from something you built in your head, from a future you imagined, from a love you thought was real. It's excruciating. It's like pulling out a piece of yourself. But here's the thing, that pain is temporary. Staying in this cycle, that pain lasts forever. You need to understand, the pain of letting go is not punishment, it's purification. It's the fire that burns away the lies. It's the breaking that leads to rebirth. Every great woman I've ever known, every woman who has risen above heartbreak, has gone through this fire. So let yourself grieve. Let yourself feel the loss, not of him, but of the illusion you clung to. Mourn the wasted years, the misplaced hope, the belief that he was ever going to be the man you deserved. But then you rise. You rise because you were never meant to be anyone's second choice. You rise because your love was never meant to be wasted on a man who only values it when it's gone. You rise because there is a version of you on the other side of this pain, stronger, wiser, untouchable. And when that day comes, when you wake up and his name doesn't hurt anymore, that will be the day his world falls apart. Because the only thing that ever made him feel powerful was your belief that he was worth the pain. You were never the weak one. You were never the fool. The fool was the man who let you go, thinking you'd always wait. Say this with me. I stop feeding his ego. Write it in the comments. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Let him feel it. Because in the next section, we're tearing apart another lie they told you. The lie that his silence means he doesn't care. I'm going to show you exactly how men use distance, silence, and emotional games to keep you trapped. And more importantly, how to break free. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 2. The low-effort man. You keep rewarding. So, my dear, let's have a real conversation. Why are you celebrating crumbs like they're a feast? Why are you treating his bare minimum like it's some grand gesture? Why are you grateful for the little scraps of effort he throws your way, like you don't deserve the entire damn table? A man who wants you will show you. A man who doesn't will keep you confused. If he wanted you, truly wanted you would never have to wonder. You wouldn't have to analyze his texts like a detective, reread your conversations looking for signs of love, or wait for the next time he decides to bless you with his attention. Real love is clear. Real effort is undeniable. But here you are, making excuses for a man who can barely send a good morning text. And I know, it's not even about the text, is it? It's about what it represents. The lack of care, the lack of priority, the lack of consistency. But instead of seeing it for what it is, you tell yourself, maybe he's just busy. Maybe he's just bad at texting. Maybe if I just show him how much I care, he'll start caring too. Lies. Lies you've been fed. Lies you've swallowed so many times that now you've convinced yourself they taste like truth. Let me tell you something I read in a forum once. There was a woman, let's call her Mia. Mia spent 5 years waiting for a man to choose her. 5 years of stolen moments, mixed signals, almost relationships, and waiting for him to be ready. 5 years of convincing herself that he did care. He was just scared. He was just healing. He was just different. Then, one day, she stopped answering his calls. She didn't make a big announcement. She didn't send a dramatic goodbye text. She simply stopped playing the game. And guess what? 3 months later, he was engaged to another woman. Let that sink in. The same man who told her he wasn't ready, who kept her waiting for half a decade, suddenly found the ability to commit, just not to her. And why? Because the other woman never accepted his excuses. Because the other woman demanded more and walked away when she didn't get it. Because the other woman refused to eat crumbs. You need to understand something. Men know exactly what they can get away with. If he's giving you the bare minimum, it's because he knows you'll take it. If he disappears for days and comes back like nothing happened, it's because he knows you'll still be there. If he gives you vague, "I miss you" texts, but never makes a real effort to see you, it's because he knows you'll keep hoping. You keep acting like if you just love him harder, he'll finally see your worth. But he already sees it, my dear. He just knows you don't. You think you're waiting for him to be a better man, but really, you're wasting your time on a man who is only using you for comfort, because that's what this is. Comfort, convenience, familiarity. You are the old sweater he refuses to throw away. Comfortable, warm, there when he needs it. But does he treat that sweater like something valuable? No. He throws it in the back of the closet, forgets about it for months, only to pull it out when he's cold and lonely. And you keep hoping he'll treat you like a queen when he only sees you as an old sweater. So let me ask you again, why are you celebrating crumbs like they're a feast? Do you know what you should do? Flip the damn table. Stop sitting at his half-hearted, low-effort banquet. Stop pretending like he's the best you can get, when the truth is, you've been starving for real love, while convincing yourself that scraps are enough. No more. Say this with me. I refuse crumbs. Write it. Mean it. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Let him feel the loss of the woman he took for granted. And in the next section, we're exposing the next lie, the one they've been using to keep you waiting, the one that makes you feel desperate every time he pulls away. We're talking about how men use silence to control you, and, more importantly, how you can break free. Stay with me. Your rise is just beginning. Number 3. How men use silence to control you. So, my dear, let's talk about the mind games he's playing with you. Let's talk about the silence that keeps you trapped. Because right now, you're sitting there overthinking, overanalyzing, losing sleep over a man who is perfectly fine without you. He's out there living his life, ignoring your messages, watching your stories, but not texting back, pulling away whenever he feels like it, because he knows you will wait. You think his silence is confusion. You think maybe he's just figuring things out. Maybe he's just going through something. Maybe he just needs space. Lies. His silence is not confusion, it's control. You think his absence means he doesn't care, when in reality, it means he knows you do. He's testing you, training you, teaching you to accept less. He pulls away, you panic. He comes back, you forgive. And the cycle repeats. Do you see the pattern? He disappears when he knows you're getting attached. He goes cold the moment you start expecting more. He ignores you just long enough to make you question everything, your worth, your sanity, your reality. And just when you're about to walk away, boom, he reappears, acting like nothing happened. A "Hey stranger" text, a "Miss you" message at 2 a.m., a little breadcrumb to keep you on the hook. And what do? You breathe again. You tell yourself, see, he does care. You reward his silence by taking him back without consequences. And that's exactly why he does it. Let me tell you about a story I read on Reddit. A woman, I'll call her Sarah, spent 2 years waiting for a man who ghosted her. 2 years of checking her phone, waiting for closure, convincing herself he would come back. And guess what? The moment she finally stopped waiting, the moment she started dating someone new, suddenly he realized he loved her. Suddenly he was texting, calling, writing long emotional messages about how he had made a mistake. Sound familiar? That's not love. That's panic. Panic because he lost his control over her. Panic because he thought she would always be there. Panic because the one thing that made him feel powerful, her suffering, was no longer available to him. And I know, right now, you're still holding on to hope. You're still waiting for the grand return, the heartfelt apology, the moment he finally realizes you were the one all along. But let me tell you something brutal. He's not coming back because he loves you. He's coming back because his ego needs you. He needs to know you still want him. He needs to know you're still waiting. He needs to know that no matter how many times he disappears, you will always take him back. And until you break that cycle, he will keep using silence as his weapon. So stop responding to his disappearances with desperation. Stop texting first. Stop checking his social media. Stop falling apart over a man who is perfectly fine without you. Let him drown in the silence he created. Let him sit in the emptiness he left behind. Let him feel what it's like to lose access to the woman who made him feel important. Because the truth is, you were never the problem. The only mistake you made was believing that his distance meant something was wrong with you. It wasn't. It was always him. And now, it's time for you to break free. Say this with me. I am not an option. Write it. Own it. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Let him feel it. Because in the next section, we're exposing another truth. The real reason why he keeps you hooked, why he doesn't let you go, and why you keep staying despite knowing he'll never change. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 4. The truth about why he keeps you hooked. So, my dear, let's rip off the mask. Let's expose the real reason he keeps you in this cycle. Why he doesn't let you go. Why he always comes back just when you're starting to heal. Why he feeds you just enough hope to keep you starving for more. It's not because he loves you. It's because he needs you to doubt yourself. He knows that if he ever made you feel truly secure, safe, and loved, you'd wake up one day and realize you deserve better. And the second you realize that, he loses all his power. That's why he keeps you confused. That's why he gives you inconsistency instead of commitment. That's why one day he treats you like his world, and the next he makes you feel invisible. Because if you're always questioning where you stand, you'll never have the confidence to leave. And he knows it. This is not a man who doesn't know how to love. This is not a man who just doesn't know what he wants. This is a man who knows exactly what he's doing. He's keeping you off balance on purpose. You ever notice how every time you bring up your feelings, suddenly you're the problem? You're too emotional. You're overreacting. You're too needy. No, my dear, you're not too much. He's just giving you too little, and he knows it. That's why he gaslights you. That's why he makes you second-guess your own reality. That's why every time you try to stand up for yourself, he twists the situation so that somehow you're the villain and he's the victim. I once knew a woman, I'll call her Rachel, who spent years in a relationship where she was constantly told she was crazy. Every time she questioned something, every time she brought up her needs, her boyfriend would make her feel like she was the unstable one. She started believing it. She started apologizing for things she wasn't even wrong about. She started shrinking herself, walking on eggshells, trying to be the cool, chill girlfriend who didn't make waves. And do you know what happened? Turns out he was cheating on her the entire time. The lies were never in her head. They were in his mouth. But by making her doubt herself, by convincing her that she was just being too emotional, he kept her right where he wanted her, questioning herself instead of questioning him. And I need you to hear me when I say this. You are not crazy. You are not imagining things. You are not asking for too much. You are asking the wrong man. You are asking a man who is invested in your insecurity, a man who needs you to feel like you're never enough, because the second you realize you are, you'll leave. And let's be honest, you already know you should. That's why you're here. That's why you're watching this. That's why you feel that ache in your chest, that burning frustration, that deep exhaustion of constantly fighting for something that should have been given freely. And let me tell you, real love will never make you feel like this. A man who truly loves you will never let you question your worth. A man who truly wants you will never make you feel like you have to earn his effort. A man who truly values you will never treat you like an option. And if he is, then you need to stop playing his game. You are not a flickering candle, you are the sun. But he has spent so much time convincing you that your light is weak, that your warmth is not enough, that you should be grateful just to have a place in his world. And I need you to stop believing that lie, because the second you see through it, the second you truly understand the game he's been playing, his power over you is gone. Say this with me. I see through his lies. Write it, say it, believe it. Because in the next section, we're going to talk about the one thing that will truly make him regret losing you. Not crying, not begging, not proving your worth, but rising so high that his existence becomes irrelevant. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 5. The brutal truth about his future without you. So, my dear, let's talk about the thing that's been eating away at you. The thing that keeps you awake at night. The thing that stops you from walking away for good. You're scared he'll replace you. You're scared that the moment you finally leave, the moment you finally stop fighting for him, he'll magically turn into the man you always wanted, just for someone else. And I need you to hear me when I say this. Yes, he will replace you, but he will never forget you, because you were never the problem. The problem was him, the way he moves through relationships, the way he collects women like trophies but never values them, the way he plays the same game, runs the same patterns, and tells the same damn lies, just to trap someone new in the cycle you barely escaped. He is not going to suddenly become a better man. He is not going to wake up one day and have an epiphany about love, loyalty, and effort. Men like him don't change. They just change women. And the next woman, she will get the same excuses, the same manipulation, the same half-hearted love that never quite feels real, the same disappearing acts, the same damn disappointment, because he is not capable of more. I know a woman, I'll call her Anna. Anna spent 7 years trying to make things work with a man who never prioritized her. He played hot and cold. He made promises he never kept. He made her feel like she was asking for too much when all she wanted was basic respect. One day, she had enough. She left, and it was the hardest thing she ever did. At first, she struggled. She almost went back, until she saw something that made her stomach drop. 2 years later, he was married to someone new. For a moment, the old fear came rushing back. Did I leave too soon? Was it really me? Did she get the better version of him? But then, she noticed something. He was still watching her Instagram stories, still lurking in the background of her life, still checking in on the woman he claimed he didn't want. Because that's the thing about men like him. They move on physically, but they never move on mentally. They keep tabs, they stalk in silence. They live with the knowledge that they lost a woman who truly loved them, and they will never be loved like that again. And you have to stop being afraid of him moving on. Because moving on doesn't mean upgrading. It doesn't mean he suddenly became a better man. It just means he found someone new to fool for a while. But let's be clear, that's not your problem anymore. Let him play his same tired games. Let him love-bomb her the way he did to you in the beginning. Let him give her that short-lived fairy tale before the mask slips and she realizes exactly what he is. But do not let the fear of him finding someone else keep you stuck, because your peace, your healing, your future, they are worth so much more than the temporary illusion of love he gave you. And the best part? One day, you're going to wake up and realize you don't even care anymore. One day, you're going to hear his name and feel nothing. One day, he's going to try to come back, and you won't even be tempted. And that's when he'll truly regret losing you, because by then, you'll be gone in a way he can never reach again. Say this with me: I choose my peace over his presence. Write it. Own it. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Because in the next section, we're going even deeper. We're talking about the exact moment he will finally regret losing you, and why it won't be when you're crying, but when you're rising. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 6. The moment he regrets losing you. So, my dear, let's get something straight. His regret. It's not coming when you're crying. It's not coming when you're begging. It's not coming when you're writing long paragraphs, waiting for a response, stalking his social media, or hoping for closure. Because while you're falling apart, he feels nothing. While you're drowning in your emotions, he's fine. He's out with friends. He's talking to other women. He's sleeping soundly at night while you lie awake, wondering if he ever truly loved you. But here's where the shift happens. He won't regret losing you when you're hurting. He will regret it when you stop hurting over him. Because the truth is, men like him don't fear losing you. They fear losing their control over you. As long as you're crying, waiting, checking your phone, hoping for him to change, he knows he still has you. He knows he can come back. He knows he still lives inside your mind, your heart, your emotions. But the day you stop waiting, the day you stop crying, the day you wake up and realize he is no longer the center of your world, that's when it hits him. A man's ego is like a house of cards. He builds it up with your love, your attention, your pain, your forgiveness. He stacks it carefully, piece by piece, using your emotions as the foundation. But the moment you walk away, the moment you pull back your energy, the moment you take away everything that made him feel powerful, the whole thing collapses. Let me tell you about a woman I knew. We'll call her Danielle. Danielle was in love with a man who cheated on her, lied to her, manipulated her, and made her feel like she wasn't enough. And she stayed. She stayed because she believed he would change. She stayed because she thought her love was strong enough to fix him. Then, one day, she had enough. She didn't announce it. She didn't send a long goodbye text. She didn't wait for an apology that was never going to come. She just left. At first, he didn't care. He thought she would come back. He thought she was just trying to teach him a lesson. But when weeks passed, when months passed, when he saw that she wasn't watching his stories, wasn't responding to his breadcrumbs, wasn't asking about him, that's when the panic set in. 3 years later, she ran into him at a cafe. And let me tell you, she was radiant. She looked like a woman who had healed, a woman who had moved on, a woman who had completely erased him from her life. And him? He looked miserable. The weight of every bad decision he had ever made was written all over his face, because in that moment he finally realized he had lost the one woman who actually cared about him. And that, my dear, is how regret works. Not when you're suffering, but when you've risen so high that he becomes irrelevant. So stop giving him the satisfaction of knowing you still care. Stop giving him your attention, your energy, your tears. Stop keeping him alive in your thoughts when he's already moved on with his life. The moment you take your power back, that's the moment he truly loses. And even if he never says it, even if he never admits it, he will feel it. Because while he's stuck in the same toxic patterns, playing the same games with new women, searching for someone who will love him the way you did, you will be living, you will be thriving, you will be untouchable. Say this with me. I rise without him. Write it, own it. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Let him feel it. Because in the next section, we're talking about how to take your healing even further. How to go from simply surviving to truly thriving. How to rebuild yourself into the kind of woman who never settles again. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 7. The 30-day no-contact challenge and why it works. So, my dear, let's cut the nonsense. You say you want to heal. You say you want to move on. You say you're done with his games, but you're still checking his social media. You're still waiting for his name to pop up on your phone. You're still secretly hoping he realizes what he lost and comes crawling back. That is not moving on. That is keeping yourself stuck. You need to do the one thing that will break his control over you completely. The one thing that will force him to feel your absence. The one thing that will force you to see your own worth. Go silent. No calls. No texts. No accidental likes on his Instagram. No checking if he watched your story. No rereading old messages. No excuses. Nothing. Because let me tell you something. You will never heal in the same space that broke you. And you know what else? He will never feel your loss as long as you keep making yourself available. You think he doesn't care, but the truth is, he doesn't have to care, because you're still there. He still has access to you. He still has the comfort of knowing that if he sends a half-assed "miss you" text, you'll reply. He still knows that no matter how much he hurts you, you won't actually leave. That ends today. I want you to commit to 30 days of complete silence, not to teach him a lesson, not to make him miss you, not to play some childish game, but for you, because you need to see who you are without him. You need to clear your mind of the addiction. You need to separate the fantasy from the reality. Let me tell you a story. There was a woman, I'll call her Jenna, who swore she was madly in love with her ex. She thought about him constantly, obsessed over his actions, waited for him to change. Then she committed to 30 days of no contact. At first, it was hell. She had withdrawal symptoms like an addict quitting a drug. She wanted to check on him. She wanted to text him just once. She wanted to break the silence. But she didn't. And by the end of those 30 days, she realized something shocking. She never actually liked him. She liked the idea of him. She liked the version of him she created in her mind. The man he could be, the man he should be, the man she was waiting for. But the man he really was, he was never good enough for her. And you're about to have that same realization. You're about to see that the only thing keeping you attached to him is the story you keep telling yourself. The illusion of love, the false hope, the addiction to the highs and lows. And if you can't go 30 days without speaking to him, then he owns you. That's the truth. and you know it. So prove to yourself that you are stronger than this. Prove to yourself that you are capable of breaking free. 30 days, no contact, no excuses, and when the silence stretches out, when he starts feeling the absence of your energy, when he realizes you're no longer waiting, that's when his world will start crumbling. Say this with me: I commit to 30 days of silence. Write it, own it, let the universe hear it, let yourself believe it. Because in the next section, we're talking about what happens after no contact, how to take this power and build a life so extraordinary that he becomes nothing more than a distant memory. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. Number 8. Your new life without him, and why it's beautiful. So, my dear, now that you've walked away, now that you've let go, now that you've chosen yourself, what's next? Because I know what you're feeling right now. You've cut the cord, but there's still this empty space where he used to be. The nights feel longer, the silence feels heavier. You catch yourself reaching for your phone, out of habit, not out of love. But let me tell you something. This is the most powerful moment of your life, because right now, you are standing at the crossroads between who you were and who you're about to become. And I need you to make the right choice. You are not here to fix a man. You are not here to wait for a man. You are not here to be a side character in someone else's life. You are here to build a life so damn beautiful, so full, so rich in joy and purpose, that he becomes nothing more than a distant memory. That's the best revenge. Not making him jealous, not proving a point, not waiting for him to come crawling back, but creating a life that feels so good. He's not even a thought in your mind. Let me tell you about a woman I knew. We'll call her Sophia. Sophia was heartbroken. She had spent years in a relationship that drained her, a love that made her feel like she was never enough. When she finally left, she felt lost. She didn't know who she was outside of him. She didn't know what to do with her time. She felt this constant urge to check up on him just to see if he missed her. But one day, she made a decision. Instead of waiting for an apology, she booked a solo trip. Instead of checking his Instagram, she deleted social media. Instead of letting the pain keep her stuck, she channeled it into rebuilding herself. And do you know what happened? 6 months later, she was standing on a beach in Bali, watching the sunset, realizing she hadn't thought about him in weeks. A year later, she ran into him by accident, and when she looked at him, she felt nothing. No pain, no anger, no nostalgia, just peace, because she had outgrown him. And that's exactly where you're headed. Because here's the truth. You were drowning in his ocean, but now you're standing on the shore, watching the waves crash without fear. He used to be the center of your world, but now, your world is bigger than him. You have dreams to chase. You have places to go. You have an entire life waiting for you. And I know it's not easy. I know there will be days when the loneliness creeps in, days when you wonder if you made the right choice, days when you feel the old version of you whispering, maybe he wasn't that bad. Ignore it. Because I promise you, one day you're going to wake up, stretch your arms, breathe in the morning air, and realize you are free. And that feeling, it will be worth every tear you ever cried over him. So stop looking back. Stop wondering if he misses you. Stop thinking about what could have been. It doesn't matter anymore, because you are rising. Say this with me. I am building my best life. Write it. Own it. Let the universe hear it. Let yourself believe it. Because in the next section, We're talking about how to take this new power and use it to become unstoppable. No more waiting, no more doubting. It's time to step fully into the woman you were always meant to be. Stay with me, my dear. Your rise is just beginning. So, Queen, listen to me. You don't rise for him. You rise for you. And the day you finally see your worth, that's the day he loses all power over you. Keep rising, keep healing, keep building a life that makes you proud. Subscribe, share, and comment. Let the world know I choose myself.